It is Friday. That means a couple of things. That means that you made it if you work a traditional work schedule. You made it to the end of the week. But maybe more importantly, if you are a person who your heart, your soul, and mind are all at this point deeply, deeply imbued in the very, very fiber of your being, if you are wondering, hoping, wishing, and dreaming about college football, we are here to deliver you and take you to the promised land. I am joined. If you look directly, nope, darn it. If you look directly that way, the master gunnery sergeant himself, Mr. Greg Rector. And
How are you,
then,
Bill?
oh, you know, just had to deal with the ever lovely commute from where I work to here, which is fun. But and then directly beneath the two of us, strong enough to hold up the rest of the crew, we have the babyface assassin himself, Brock Vieira. How's everything going, Mr. Vieira?
Oh, I can't complain. Another Friday means that another Saturday is right around the corner. With very few of them left, I'm just enjoying it as much as I can.
Yes, we are. We are. It seems like we just started. Like a few days ago. It seems like we just started. It seems like we just started the season, but already things are beginning to matter. And for teams like the Black Knights of the Hudson sitting at 16, they need a few more teams to lose, and they need to run the table. For some teams, they are, you know, a hair's breadth away from getting in, and one or two teams are a hair's breadth away from being knocked out of that pool of 12. And some of them will bid departure this week. This week, we'll send some people out of the top 12. There will be some shakeups. This will be one of those quote unquote separation Saturdays, as they like to call it this time of year. I'm going to start with the youngest of the crew. I'm going to start with you, Brock. Give me the four games that you are most hyped up, most focused on, most jazzed about going into this week 12.
Well, that's a great question. So there's a variety of games this week that I'm very excited about. I think that are going to be very critical to determining the outlook of college, at least college football playoffs this year. As we know, I think the first one is obviously the biggest game of the calendar: Georgia versus Tennessee. This game is going to be critical for a variety of reasons. Obviously, you have two big SEC powerhouse teams going up against each other, two at very different storylines. Georgia's looking for redemption. Tennessee's looking to finally get over the hump, something they haven't been able to do in quite some time. And then lastly, it comes down to the third loss, right? The whole question is, could an SEC team with three losses make the college football playoffs? Well, obviously, one of those teams are going to have three losses after that game. So we'll be able to see what kind of shakes out in the rankings. The next game that I'm very excited about is Arizona State going to Kansas State. Arizona State's unranked right now according to the coaches poll. I'm not sure where they stand on the playoff, but they're sitting at 7-2 right now. They're 4-2 in the Big 12. Very similar records to a lot of the top teams competing outside of BYU. They're a burgeoning team. They have a extremely good running back in Cameron Scott. Both of you guys don't know about him, you guys need to check him out. He is fantastic. The head coach, Kitty Dillingham, has the team rolling right now. And for Kansas State, this is about establishing yourself. We don't exactly know what kind of Kansas State team we're going to get. Obviously, this is a Kansas State team that has a win over Colorado, that is 7-2, and has won a conference championship in recent years. But at the same time, they do have some questions about their quarterback. This feels like a big trap game for them. And should Arizona State knock off Kansas State, they could be a team making a late playoff push towards the college football playoff, especially with the conference championship game for the Big 12 not being anywhere nearly decided as it's speaking. The next game I want to cover is Kansas going to BYU. Obviously, Kansas hasn't had the best of years so far, but BYU has been rolling. They are 9-0 as we speak. Um, and so the reason why I'm very excited about this game is that Kansas has finally been able to regain some momentum in recent weeks. They beat Houston 3 weeks ago, who, if you guys don't recall, just knocked off Kansas State, and they beat Houston pretty soundly. They only lost to State by 2 points in Manhattan, and they just knocked off number 17 Iowa State last week. So this is a team that's slowly starting to pick up momentum. BYU had a pretty awful showing last week in the Holy War, and for Kalani Sitake, there's always been that question of can he actually get it done? Can he actually take this team to the heights that they want to go to? I think this is a great game for him to prove it. While on the opposite side for Kansas, at 3-6, they're fighting for bowl eligibility. If they lose one more game, they're bowl ineligible. And with a team that's finally starting to get some momentum, that could be a possible track game for the Cougars. The one benefit for BYU is that the game is being played in Provo, so that at least they have the home crowd on their side. Going to the last game that I am very excited about, looking at the schedule, just so many great ones, but I'm going to have to go with one that I could foresee being a trap game, and that has to be Boise State traveling to San Jose State. San Jose State is a team that has been quietly improved this year. Kenyo Matalolo just got that bowl eligible with a win at Oregon State in Corvallis last week. Boise State, obviously, we know how great they are. They are the projected Power 5 non-Power 5 automatic qualifying representative for the cultural playoffs, and have a massive Heisman candidate. With Ashton Jeanty, Maddox Banton, the quarterback, has had a phenomenal year, especially since he's been able to take advantage of some of the advantageous matchups that has been presented to him because defenses are so focused on stopping Jeanty. And on the opposite side, though, San Jose State possesses a high-powered passing attack, all kind of led by the star wide receiver Nick Nash. Nick Nash has 86 receptions, 11,156 yards, and 13 touchdowns on the season. And Craig Stutzman's offense, they like to spread it out, like to throw the ball. And whenever you have a team that, like Boise State, you need a team that can get yards to the air quickly, like San Jose State, in order to beat them. So I think that the Broncos should be put on upset alert. So that is I know people were expecting me to say Missouri, South Carolina, and I'm very excited about that game. But I think Boise State and San Jose State could be a game that nobody's talking about, but could be very important in terms of determining the playoffs. And then for Louisiana Lafayette right now, who is another non-Power 5 team that also sits at one loss, this could be their opening potentially for them to make a potential late push towards the playoff. So those are my 4 games that I think everyone should focus on this weekend.
I like all of those, and I love that you chose to zig instead of zag with that last one. That is an, I think, underrated game in terms of the level of difficulty. Shout out to our former guest, Becca Perez, and the team she's helped put together at San Jose State. That is a team that is not fun to play, and the arrow is clearly pointed up in San Jose. That is a program on the rise. Same question to you, Greg. What are the ones that you give me your top 4 or 5 games that you're most excited about?
Well, I'll start off with the upset special. That'll be the Utah Utes going to Colorado and beating the Buffaloes. Utah lost last week to BYU on a very late field goal. It was an ugly holy war, as we're all used to seeing. And if Utah is still upset over that result, they could be a very nasty team to come up against for the Colorado Buffaloes. My other game is the Pitt Panthers hosting Clemson. I'm just hoping that Dabo Swinney goes down again. That's the bottom line. If Dabo loses, Brock and I will be 2 very happy men. Very happy. My other matchup here is SMU hosting BC, because SMU is in the driver's seat to go to the conference championship game for the ACC at this point. They've just got to keep winning. Bottom line there. And my other game that I was excited for is, of course, Boise State against San Jose State. Ashton Jeanty, he's going to have another 200-yard game. It's just going to happen. If he gets another 3 or 4 touchdowns, that's even better. because he will then be definitely in line to take out Derrick Henry's last running back to win a Heisman Trophy. He will be ahead of Derrick Henry quite easily at that point. And therefore, those are the games I'm looking at tomorrow, along with the Tennessee-Georgia game as well.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Those are all excellent choices. Those are all games that, one, have impact and value on what's going to happen for the rest of the season. And some of those are essentially the football equivalent of a loser leave town match. And when it comes, at least when it comes to the playoffs, there's going to be, I would say, at least 2, possibly 3 teams that we're projecting, at least in some people's minds, towards the playoffs, who I think will be, take an off ramp rather than an on ramp. And once again, as you said, that moves some of those teams that are in that 13, 14, 15 spot move up at that point. Yeah, yep. I think those are all excellent choices. The other things that are going on right now, as if you follow people like Eric Galko, you follow people like, like, of course, the man himself, Jim Nagy. And if you follow like Mike Riddlesman and people who are associated with some of the other All-Star games, All-Star game invitations have been going out the last few weeks, and now some acceptances are coming back. We'll delve into that in the next segment, as well as, for some NFL teams, it's already draft season, right? If you're the Giants, it's draft season. If you're the Patriots, it's draft season.
If you're the Cowboys, it's draft season. Yes, it is. Yes.
To be fair, if you're a Cowboy, it's always draft season. No, it's
not. No, it's not. We've been 12-5 the last 3 straight years, so you settle down there, Brock.
Yeah, but we all knew how it was going to end anyway. Like I'm not delirious about my team's chances either. I knew that it's always been draft season for the Chargers, so I'm not singling the Cowboys out. It's just the reality of life. It's been draft season for most teams in the league.
Yeah, there are some, like I said. So we'll talk about maybe the shopping list for a few NFL teams and some of the players they'll be on. And of course, every week Greg has attempted to pre-draft Mr. Austin Jeanty
to the Dallas Cowboys. That is where he is headed. It is bought that and Ashton Jeanty is on public social media this week stating that he wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. So the NFL, you teams just shut up. Don't touch the man until it's the Cowboys' turn. Just that's it.
Well, I don't exactly think that's how it works, Gregory, but
I'm telling the Giants and the Panthers and the Jaguars and the Bears, picking ahead. None of them need a running back. Leave him alone.
The Cowboys need a lot more things than a running back, to be fair, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, here's the good news, Greg. If the Cowboys continue the way they are, they may be able to prevent those teams from drafting it by
continuing to lose. Really, we have a game against the Giants and a game against the Panthers. Those are our only 2 hopes to win games the rest of this season. And if it's Trey Lance starting at quarterback, well, okay, guess what? Daniel Jones is going to beat him, and Bryce Young could beat him as well. So, it could be a 3-14 season for the Cowboys, and that's just fine by me.
Yes, indeed. Well, once again, ouch. But it works out well for your draft hopes. So you may have your pick of Mr. Jeanty and a few others if this continues the way we just noted. But let's continue to talk a little more college football, and then we'll talk some prospects. I'm going to talk about, somebody mentioned the term trap game. I'm going to whip that same appellation out for Arkansas, Texas. Now, Arkansas is not a great team. In fact, some might argue they're not a really good team, but they are a physical team. It is not fun to play Arkansas. They are very large on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They have big offensive linemen, huge offensive linemen. I think they're in the top 3 or 4 in like pounds per player on the offensive line.
Yep.
They're bigger. I think someone said they're bigger than they are above the median line for an NFL offensive line, if memory serves me correctly. They would be above average in the NFL.
Yes, they are. And that's by a good 12 to 15 pounds.
Yeah, they're absolutely monsters.
They're huge.
Offensive line, and their defensive line is not quite that large, but big. They're not a fun team to play, and I don't think Texas is going to full on lose the game. I do think that game will be much closer than people suspect. I think the line on it is 12. I won't be shocked at all if it's a 7, 8, 9, 10 point game where they sort of pull away towards the end. Quinn Ewers, of course, talented but occasionally streaky, and
he just does not throw deep very well. He just doesn't do it. Right. And because he doesn't do that, the Arkansas secondary knows this already, and they will be ready to jump on the route. Yeah. That's it.
Right. You basically draw a line at about 14 yards, and you sort of bring everything forward from that. We're all standing at 14 and running forward towards the ball. So it's going to be an interesting game. Now, the Arkansas front is good. The Arkansas secondary,
a little shaky.
So their secondary will need the help. So they'll need that pass rush better get home. Taylon Green is talented, and though he's somewhat experienced, he's still raw in some areas. He needs to work on his mechanics and his reading of defenses, but the talent is clearly there. I mean, you just mentioned Trey Lance. He's sort of like a poor man's Trey Lance, and large poor man's Trey Lance. Everybody is big at Arkansas. It's a big team. And then they need to get Ja'Quinden Jackson going. He's missed some time.
Yep.
But yeah, the one thing that Sam Pittman teams is they're rugged, they're large, and they may not be polished in certain areas. You may not see a lot of crispness in the execution of certain things, but they will try to pummel you. But Texas is not invincible. They're not unbeatable. They're not one of those teams that you have no chance against. This is a game that is not going to affect the playoffs at all. But this is an interesting game to me, is UCLA versus Washington. Now in the Big Ten. But the Huskies got thoroughly dominated by Penn State. But UCLA and Penn State are very different teams and what they try to do and how they do it. First of all, Jeff Fish's teams are tough at home. They are undefeated, 5-0 at home. The Bruins are improving. I think they're one of the most, from the week 0 or week 1 or whatever to now, one of the most improved teams in the FBS. They went from looking terrible early in the season to looking respectable. And once again, I think the arrow was pointed up. Washington has been struggling against the run, 16th in the Big Ten, which still sounds funny to say. But they're number 7 nationally against the pass. So this will be an interesting game. I think Washington squeaks out a victory, but I think they're looking at about a 3-point game there. And this used to be a big game, people. We might have led with this game a few years ago, but Florida's going to play LSU. And it's kind of this year, right? Funny how things change. LSU, of course, is favored and should win. And they did get blown out, obviously, against Alabama, but they still have a path to the SEC championship game. Theoretically, they could still somehow get there. It takes, one of those Rube Goldberg contraptions, for those who are old enough to know what I'm talking about. Sort of series of things would have to happen, but it's not impossible. What's the old saying? You're saying there's a chance, I guess is what I'm saying. Yes, there is a chance. Now, LSU's rushing defense gave up 203 yards per game in conference. That's not great. Florida has not looked good, really, in any real phase for the most part. The bright spot is that DJ Lagway is, once again, a talent. He doesn't really know what he's doing yet, but you can see the talent there. And if he's able to play, he missed last week's game with a hamstring. If he's able to play, that gives them at least a fighting chance. Garrett Nussmeier will have a not great. I mean, it's funny because at one point Florida was one of those schools that was trying to get mentioned in the whole DBU thing, along with LSU and Washington at one point, Ohio State, Miami, all the places they're trying to claim to be DBU. But now Florida's secondary is probably one of the bottom 3 in the SEC. It just sounds weird to say that. And he obviously has had 5 interceptions in the last 2 games. If he stays clean, I think LSU wins this game by even more. I think they more than cover the 4.5 if Dustin Myers turns the ball over. Now, if he turns the ball over, Florida at least has a fighting chance. And if Lagway's 100%, once again, Florida at least has a fighting chance.
Well, Florida's both cornerbacks are still out.
Yeah, that secondary is bad, as I said.
Yeah.
A few more, and this is not really a trap game. It's more like a can you cover game. The Ohio State University coming here to my beautiful city to face the Purple Wildcats of Northwestern.
Let's go Northwestern. Let's go. Oh.
Yep, played at Wrigley Field, so it'll be a fun game. It's hard to figure out how Northwestern keep this game close. A few years ago, you could say, well, maybe they'll just play great defense, something like that. You used to have people like Greg Newsome out there, and they don't anymore. There is no one remotely resembles Greg Newsome on this version of the team. And we just saw Purdue get, thrown face first into a wood chipper last week by Ohio State 45-zip. And the Wildcats have now lost 4 of their last 5 games by 17 or more points. 28.5 points is a lot to cover, but I think Ohio State might be able to do it. The only thing is if they're looking ahead to Indiana, that might give, Northwestern a little chance to hang around for a while. They will also travel well, though it is a home game, though it's, obviously well off campus, a home game for Northwestern. I won't be shocked if Ohio State, has, 18 to 20,000 people in the stands. Won't surprise me at all because it's a chance to be in Wrigley Field and it's a cool part of Chicago. A lot of cool bars are there. Okay, now here's the game that I like to call the Demetrius Burgess Bowl. Illinois will take on Michigan State. Michigan State, to me, it's somewhat surprisingly, is I would say they've overcome certain things and outperformed some of my expectations, and both teams are coming off a bye. Michigan State is working through its transition, under Jonathan Smith, who's still trying to get his guys there, which the transfer portal at least, speeds up, but he needs another, I think, year or 2. They are 2 wins away from being bowl eligible. Illinois, ironically, got bowl eligible very quickly, got out of the gate 6-1, and now have lost back-to-back games to both Oregon and Minnesota, and of course dropped out of the top 25 at that point. Altmaier should be able to find some targets downfield. Michigan State's pass rush and secondary are not exactly fearsome. Illinois has struggled against the run, and that's the one real weakness that I can say sort of gives Michigan State a really good fighting chance. They run the ball fairly well. K'Ron Lynch-Adams has 469 yards rushing, and his partner, Nate Carter, always has 418. Both guys have a shot to end up over 700, maybe even over, maybe both, somewhere between 650 and 700 yards each this season. And, of course, they need to reduce Aiden Childs' exposure to being asked to make plays. If you make Aiden Childs beat you, he will not. And so that, to me, is the secret. I think Illinois probably prevails by somewhere between 6 and 4 points. I'm thinking like 27-21 or 24-20, somewhere in that range. 17-23, somewhere in that area. Aiden Childs is back. He got hurt, banged up a little bit against Indiana, but it didn't, wasn't too serious. But he's been really inconsistent. Now, he's very talented. Once again, I said this a lot, but 11 interceptions to 8 touchdowns lets you know that he's not quite there yet mentally.
His running game is what keeps him going, and that's basically it, because he does not throw the ball very well. He does not throw the ball on mechanics and all that other sort of stuff that we always
mechanics, decision making, accuracy. Yeah. Yes, except for those things, he's great. But
the main characteristics of a quarterback, he doesn't have those at the moment, is what they're trying to say.
Yeah, well, Not yet. Not yet. He's working on those things. It's a work in progress. But he's talented, was the point I was making. He's a talented young man. I believe at some point he will be a very effective starting quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be, a guy who's out there, dicing you up secondary in your, just, boom, boom, boom as a passer. But I think he'll improve enough that at least he keeps you honest. And I'm going to mention a game that I don't think anybody else in the world's excited about, but I'm somewhat excited about it, is an ACC battle between those traditional rivals of Cal and Syracuse. Now, yes, exactly. Yeah. Good luck to whoever's in charge of. I mean, equipment managers get to earn their money when you have conferences like that. But Syracuse road trek to Berkeley is I think it's one of the 4 or 5 longest. It may be the longest conference game in terms of track. Only one of them. And I think it's one of the 4 or 5 longest. I mean, not counting people playing Hawaii. Hawaii is sort of a special category, but amongst non-Hawaii games, I think it's the top 4 or 5 amongst travels and not counting like Ireland games.
I think the Miami versus Cal game was the longest this year.
Number 1. Yeah, that's number 1 amongst the non-Hawaii.
I think because Syracuse is closer to the west here, that it's like 4 or 5, like you mentioned before.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in there. Fernando Mendoza has quietly had a really good season. I watched him really carefully for the first time last week, and I was like, he's the kind of quarterback Cal didn't used to recruit, and not just because his last name is Mendoza, but also, I mean, not that they didn't have guys who could move around a little bit, but he's a legit, dual threat-ish quarterback, and that's something you don't really see at Cal in the past. And Jaden Knott has been banged up for almost his entire season, so Mendoza's really had to sort of carry the load this year. Now, the Syracuse secondary is ranked number 99th in the country, but Kyle McCord, once again, talented but erratic, but that's a guy who's averaging 350.3 yards passing per game. And the Cal secondary is one of the tops in getting the ball. They have 17 interceptions as a group, that Cal secondary, a bunch of true ball hawks. So it's going to be an interesting battle. If indeed Cal can get a couple of interceptions, I think they'll at least deny Cal the cover. Cal is favored by 8.5. I don't think they cover. I think they win. I don't think they cover that 8.5. But that's gonna be an interesting game. And
I'm also looking forward to the Cornhuskers traveling to the Coliseum to destroy Fight On. They are Fight On just needs another. They need to lose some more until Notre Dame gets there on the 30th when they really get a pounding. That's it.
See, logically, Greg, you should be hoping they win so that game will mean something and maybe.
Oh no, I don't want a game against Fight On to mean a thing. Nothing. I don't like Fight On. It's as bad.
I get what you're saying, but as
bad as that school up north is, and those are the 2 schools in the college football world that I just don't like. Period.
I get that, but as a smart Notre Dame fan, Notre Dame needs some quality wins. That schedule's looking a little less impressive as the season goes along. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but next week when we face the Army and defeat them, that's our ranked opponent, and that's it. Yeah. Because last week, of course, we had Florida State, who should have been, a ranked team this year, but what happened? And then we had the USC Trojans, who again should have been ranked, but again, what's happened? They suck. There you go. So we get to fight against Army, and that's our last ranked team that we'll play.
Yes. Well, like I said, logically you would want some of these teams to pick up some wins heading into your schedule. But Notre Dame is now facing Virginia. They're favored by 23. I talked recently about Virginia's dilemma. They are another place with high academic standards. They are located in a part of the country, though Virginia is fairly talent rich for a state of its population density. The football talent isn't mostly near that part of the state. Most of the football talent is either above them or below them.
Yeah.
The DC metro area, or down in my neck of the woods down the Tidewaters where most of the talents are. There's a little pocket or corridor also in that little corner over there by where Tennessee is located. And frankly, Virginia does not do a great job recruiting any of those areas. It is going to be a challenge for them. I think Tony Elliott's the right man for the job. It's a crucial game for him. They need another victory with a tough schedule left. They've got Notre Dame, SMU, and Virginia Tech left to get to a bowl game. If they can pick up a win somewhere in there, now those are all tough teams, but I think
good luck.
Yeah, right. Good luck. I think if he can pick up a win somewhere in there, Tony Elliott will secure his future there, and I truly believe he's the right guy. Like I said, the Fighting Irish are in a good position to make the playoffs if, well, one, they clearly need to run the table, and yes, I mean they really would help them if at least one of the teams that they were playing in the last portion, other than maybe Army, was a halfway decent team. But the ground game at Notre Dame is clearly, the strongest part of the offense. They average 214.8 yards rushing per game, and Virginia's defense has allowed 140 yards rushing so far this year, and this is a better team than most teams they played. They're going to find the sledding tough against the Notre Dame defense. I'm thinking that Virginia probably scores about 13. Notre Dame probably scores about 34. So, yeah, I think that's about 21 points. So maybe they'll just barely miss a cover, which I believe the cover. I think they need to get to 23 to cover. So, but I think they'll win by 3, maybe three touchdowns and a field goal, perhaps. The SMU Boston College game was mentioned. I love that game. I think the game is another one of those sort of underrated. Once again, it's not exactly a traditional rivalry, but I think it's an underrated game. Both teams really could use this game. Obviously, SMU, as you mentioned, really needs it because they're trying to make a run towards the championship game and then possibly the playoffs. Boston College is trying to continue to be an improving and competitive program, and once again trying to get to a bowl game. So that will be a game that I'll also be watching, obviously. But yes, you mentioned you took out of my what? You took out of my my brain the next game I want to talk about. And the last game I'll talk about before we shift to another discussion. USC Nebraska. Nebraska is favored by 9, and their offense has been improved this year. They were very anemic on offense the last couple of years. They've now done a lot towards fixing that. Dana Holgorsen has been taking over the play calling duties, which means you're going to see the ball in the air a lot. That's kind of his thing. Dylan Raiola had a back injury. I saw him go down. He tried to tough it out, put himself back in, had to pull himself right back out. Yeah. Depending upon his health, I mean, still, no matter what, Nebraska should be favored. But if Raiola's not out there, that means that a lot of things they like to do, they may not be able to do. Of course, now Miller Moss is giving way to Jane Mayava, who, of course, I know that Brock's very familiar with, and I'm a big fan of his as well. He will have a good amount of weapons, but this is not quite a black shirt defense exactly. But Nebraska's defense is limiting teams at 19.1 points per game. And nowadays, in today's football, that's a good number. The Hornets need this win to get bowl eligible. The Trojans need 2 wins to get bowl eligible. And Nebraska's one of their last best chances to pick up a win. So they really could use this game. We'll see what the Holgorsen move does for them on offense. And, of course, redshirt freshman Raiola is supposedly trending in the right direction to play. And his backup is Heinrich Harburg, who sounds like someone who, should have been designing, some planes for like the, Focke-Wulf or, Junkers company during, maybe World War II. But if he has to go, that limits Nebraska's offense. Doesn't mean Nebraska won't win, but it'll be a much closer game. I will not be shocked if USC does find a way to win this game. Mayava may give them a little bit of pop, and he did have a really good season last year at UNLV. The Trojans, like I said, really need this game, and if Raiola either can't go or is hurt, that may, restrict them. Okay, I lied. Here's the last game I plan to talk about. West Virginia and Baylor. once again, this would have been a much more, this game would have been more fun a couple years ago. Both Aranda and Dave Aranda and Noah Brown have spent a fair amount of time with their Dockers beginning to smolder. And this could be almost a literal loser leave town match for one of these coaches. A team that comes out of this season with a winning record probably keeps his coach. Baylor is quietly righted the ship, but are now 5-4. Sawyer Robertson has had a solid season, and Nico Marichal has also started to come along. Garrett Green, of course, has been banged up this year, but he possibly could return this Saturday. Once again, unlike the NFL, college teams are not at all required to disclose or provide injury information or updates. So you find out when you find out with college football about who's playing. But at least he's supposedly trending towards being able to play. The Mountaineers have a really good rushing attack. They're number 5 in the Big 12. With Green or without, though Green's a good runner, they'll still run the ball. However, in conference, the Baylor Bears have around 26.8 yards per game, and West Virginia's secondary has also been an issue. So this could be an old school Baylor West Virginia game in that it could be fairly high scoring. I think both teams score at least 30 points and possibly, knock on the door of 40. That some of that depends upon what happens with Garrett Green.
Well, Baylor does not have the track team that they've used to have.
Oh yeah, no, it's not like the old Wiles teams. No, you're right about that.
Exactly, it doesn't have the speedsters out there. But if it's the school that Saban and McAfee went to, I want them to lose. Bye-bye, West Virginia. Bye-bye, Brown. You're done. You're done.
So what's going to happen? Marichal actually has averaged 10 more yards per attempt, but he's also not as accurate as Green and not quite as able to extend plays as Green. I'll be interested to see what happens with Green if he's able to get out there. Both quarterbacks supposedly have been practicing, though in the case of Green with restrictions and limitations. But Baylor has really struggled against good offenses this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. The offense, however, really turned the corner. The Baylor offense, which was kind of sluggish early in the season, has now averaged 531 yards and 44.7 points per game in their last 3 games that they won. If Baylor's offense shows up like that, and West Virginia once again has some secondary issues, I could see Baylor winning once again. Not a blowout, but probably about a 4 to 6 point game. I could see them getting to about 37 and West Virginia coming in at about 30. I could see it like a 37-30 kind of game. And once again, Sawyer Robertson in that winning streak of 3 games has had 8 touchdowns and just 1 interception. Okay, I still lied. This for real is the last game I'll discuss before we go to the next segment. Okay, so once again, this almost is a traditional rivalry-ish. Big Ten members Maryland and Rutgers face each other. And once again, there are some implications here. Rutgers had a 4-game losing streak that they just broke by toppling Minnesota last week. And they need 1 more win to get bowl eligible, which would be a big deal for them. Maryland looks good at times, but has now lost 4 out of its last 5 games when they got defeated by Oregon. And they have a very tough path to bowl eligibility with now, after Rutgers, Iowa and Penn State next. So once again, sort of a leave town match in terms of bowl eligibility, though Rutgers has a few more bites at the apple. Kyle Monangai was injured last week. And once again, there's, no information really given regarding how severe the injury, but rumors, innuendos, things I'm hearing is that he may well be able to play, though probably with some limitations. And Maryland's defense is not bad. Over the schedule that they've played, they've only allowed on average 3.9 yards per rush. So that's better than good. Billy Edwards Jr. Started out very hot and has looked a little shakier the last few weeks. They need Billy the Kid to get back on track. He's another of those dual threat guys. Maybe sometimes getting those guys moving and running more and throwing less sometimes helps them to relax and get back going again. Rutgers is a tough enough team that I could see them really, making this game tough for Maryland. Maryland probably has a little more talent if you just work position by position, but Rutgers seems to be playing better right now. Like they're trending in the right direction. Maryland looks like they're trending in the wrong direction. Maryland had consecutive road losses to both Minnesota and Oregon. Rutgers just beat the Golden Gophers. So whether Monangai goes or not, I like their chances. The Terrapins do defend the run well. And to me, it comes down to, I think, Kalamagnias. Rutgers has had problems at the quarterback position since Mike Teal. Maybe. I mean, I'm trying to
be about the last guy that was half-ass decent.
Yeah, I mean, they had a year or two of Tom Savage, who was one of the first guys I can remember, like transferring to four
schools. Yeah,
I think it was the first. Now it's been a few other people have done it, but I think it was the first 4-school quarterback.
Yeah,
and he spread them out too. Like they weren't even all in one place. Arizona State, Pitt, Rutgers,
and what was his other school?
What was the other one? There was another one, but be that as it may, they had a year or maybe two, I can't remember what it was, of the Tom Savage experience, and he was, fun to watch, but of those guys that just wasn't super accurate. And yeah, Mike Teal, who had a couple of cups of coffee and a Danish with, I think, the Titans, if memory serves you correctly, was the last guy to, I think, maybe start an NFL game.
Savage only went to the 3 schools, Bill.
It was only 3. Okay. That's why I couldn't remember the 4th, because it was only 3. But still, it was kind of big news at the time when he did it. Now it's no big deal. But yeah, if you don't transfer at least once, what are you doing? But
DJ, how many schools have you gone to? About 6.
Yeah, we're in a different era now.
Yeah.
But Kalamagnias has completed less than 54% of his passes, and he's not a big play threat. So he just has to keep the truck out of the ditch. He's not great, but he just don't lose the game. Okay, for real this time. I'm going to stop after this one. Oregon has been one of the most consistently solid in all areas teams in the nation. They go up against Wisconsin. And trips to Wisconsin, they're basically the Big Ten version of Arkansas. A bunch of giant people on each side of the line, issues usually at quarterback, and sometimes, speed deficits at receiver. Now, Arkansas usually has speed at receivers. That's the difference between Wisconsin and Arkansas. But they have a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses year in and year out. Oregon has looked at times like the best team in the country, which makes sense, I guess. They have won their last 4 games by 20-plus points, or 20 or more. And now they're going against Wisconsin, which is fighting for bowl eligibility. Luke Fickell's team is motivated by the chance to do that and a chance to upset the number 1 team in the country, difficult that might be. And, they don't match up well, right, on either side of the ball with Oregon, to be perfectly honest. Their defense is ranked number 73 in the country. And if Oregon gets on track, it's going to be rough.
Evan Stewart will have 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and this is the ball game. You're done. I mean, it's going to be that quick.
Yeah, the line's 14.5. I think Oregon covers it. The Badgers allow 25.1 points per game, but they haven't been playing Oregon.
No.
Now, what I will say is Wisconsin has looked better of late. They put together at one point a 3-game winning streak. Then, blowout losses to both Iowa and Penn State. And, there's travel that has affected some of these teams. I mean, I don't know how it couldn't. Dylan Gabriel is a guy that might have a shot to at least go to New York. And here's, maybe not hear his name called, but hear whoever wins the Heisman. But he's played very, very well. And then Braden Locke. Stop me if you've heard this before. has struggled at quarterback for Wisconsin. So Wisconsin apparently is a quarterback away. For those who are counting at home, since Russell Carrington Wilson transferred in, then exhausted his eligibility and went into the NFL, that has been an almost permanent state of affairs. And every time I hear that there's a savior coming, whether it was
Jack
Mertz,
Cohn,
right, Cohn or Mertz or whoever, they always turn out to be another Wisconsin quarterback.
exactly.
And then somebody already mentioned Cincinnati, Iowa State. I think that's another sort of intriguing game. But the other thing that's happening right now is that All-Star game invitations have gone out. Some players have already accepted them. I don't know if either one of you gentlemen are going to make it to the All-Star games this year. I highly recommend that if you get a chance to do it at some point in your careers, you do it. I've had the chance to go to in the past the now late lamented Medal of Honor game down in South Carolina. I've had in the past a chance to go to the HBCU Legacy game, the East West Shrine, the Senior Bowl, and the NFLPA game. So if you get a chance, I hope you'll do it. Obviously, it's too early to talk about snubs since invitations are still going out and not many have been accepted. But there are some players that I'm seeing who have been invited and have been accepted who I think, I mean, guy's not bad, but him in Mobile, like
he was in their top 300 and he stayed there, and that's it.
I guess that's how it works. Yeah.
You know what Jim Nagy does. He has his 300 guys, and that's it. That's all. Bottom line, and that's who gets invited to the Senior Bowl. That's so.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm still, like I said, slightly disappointed by some of the so far. Now, once again, it's very early, and I think I sort of played this game with Donovan recently, where we sort of tried to see if we could pick who's going to be there in Mobile. Well, Ole Miss has a quarterback, right up the road, who I think I'll be shocked if isn't there, unless he turns down, or he declines to participate. But I have a feeling, he'll be invited. We just mentioned Dylan Gabriel, and once again, it comes down to if he decides to, to attend. But I have a strong feeling that he'll receive the call. And of course, I guess they can invite guys who aren't seniors nowadays. So Shedeur might get an invitation. God, will Carson Beck still be invited? I guess. Nussmeier.
Either going there or to the East-West game.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Nussmeier. Let me see. So normally they invite at least 6.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody. I mean, I guess theoretically Howard maybe too. But amongst the guys who
Howard, there's all kinds of guys who could still go at quarterback.
Yeah. Some of those guys are not. Cam Ward is the kind of guy that I think might skip it, but we'll see. I guess it depends on what he hears from his people. But some of the players that have been invited and have accepted, Jalen Royals, wide receiver from Utah State. He's a quick guy. Listed at 6 feet, probably more like 5'11" and 3/8. Listed at 205, probably more like 199. But fine. I mean, still, he's a quick guy. He's a good route runner. He has that easy acceleration, and he should do well in one-on-ones. Hands are very good. Can snag the ball out of the air. I could see him, having a good week and sort of establishing himself as I think he's more of a number 2 than a number 1 at the next level.
Yeah.
But, Robert Woods kind of career in the NFL. One of the players that I was hoping would be invited has been invited. That's Charles Grant, tackle from William & Mary. And I think they first sort of noticed him back when they were looking at Kobe Sorsdahl last year, who is now a Detroit Lion. And some people think Grant is a better prospect than Sorsdahl, even though he's not as big as Sorsdahl. He's fluid, could use a little more power and pop in the lower body, but he's got enough functional strength. Very good in the outside zone, pretty good in pass protection. Guy with good movement skills, good balance, doesn't end up on the ground a lot. But we'll see how he handles some of the bigger, stronger pass rushers. He's done very well, certainly in his time so far at William & Mary. B.J. Adams from UCF. Brandon Adams is also what he's known as. Listed at 6'3". Once again, be prepared for him to come in at like 6'1 3/4, which is fine. That's still long. Listed at 190. He might be close to that, 187, 188. And he's long, though. Like, whatever his actual measurements will be, he'll still be a long guy. You can see that. He but usually when he gets hands on his receiver, he does a pretty good job disrupting him and redirecting. He doesn't have great lateral agility. He doesn't have great recovery speed. He doesn't stay in phase all that well if he doesn't manage to jam the guy. Colorado is the game to watch if you want to see him struggling. That's, if not his worst, like one of his worst games of the year. He is a guy that's going to get flagged a lot at the next level for illegal contact. He's a little grabby. He has a tendency not to get his hands off in time. But if you're looking for your classic sort of rolled up press man corner, he's all of those kinds of things. But body control and change of direction are the real challenges for him. And we'll see how that plays out for him.
Stanford's Elic Manor is more than likely going to transfer and not go to the draft this year.
Interesting. Huh. Well, some things have changed from the beginning of the year until now, I guess.
Yes, it's been a bit of a struggle for him this year.
Yep. To no one's surprise, Nick Scarton's been invited also to the Senior Bowl. We'll see if he accepts the invitation, but he's a guy who's one of the odds-on finalists and very good chance to win the Bednarik Award. And he's a tremendous power rusher. Unlike Greg, I don't go out and literally try to claim players, but I will say he feels like a Steeler in terms of his approach to playing football.
See, this is just Bill being polite, saying that this is who the Steelers need to draft. I mean, that's because what? Just because I'm honest and say that the Cowboys need Ashton Jeanty? Come on.
He has some Steelers.
You don't say they need Ashton Jeanty. You basically tried to pull a Red Auerbach and pre-draft them or draft them a year ahead.
Listen, if Dion can determine where Shedeur and Travis are being drafted, I can determine who the Cowboys are drafting.
Lord. He does not determine where they get drafted. He determine if they play for the Giants. And may I add that this is not an unprecedented move that's been done time and time again by other football fathers like Jack Elway and Archie Manning.
I know it's happened before. It's happened before. And you know what? I didn't like either move by either family when they did it, and they should stay the hell out of their sons' lives.
No, Jack Elway needs to step in. There's no reason John should have played in Baltimore.
He would have been good in Baltimore. He would have been just fine.
He would have been very good, but I don't know if it would have been good for him.
Yeah, that's the portion that no one talks about. Like, okay, he would have been good at Baltimore, but would he have won Super Bowls? I don't think so.
And if you swap Phillip Rivers, landing in New York instead, and Eli landing in San Diego, how does that play out? Maybe Phillip Rivers is headed to the Hall of Fame, and maybe he might still be headed to the Hall of Fame, but maybe Phillip Rivers is getting the Hall of Fame sooner. And Eli is one of those guys that we talk about as a bubble guy in terms of the Hall of Fame. So
Eli's in. There's no doubt in my mind that Eli gets
right.
in.
But I'm saying if he goes to San Diego, is he in? If Phillip Rivers ends up in New York, that's the point I'm making, right? That's why these football fathers helicopter their way into these situations is because they understand. Nobody knows better than Archie Manning how much where you land matters. Every time he tries to stand up, every time he tries to open a beer bottle, every time something hurts or he can't, comb his own
Why
hair.
was I an 8? Why was I an 8? Oh.
He remembers what it's like to go to the wrong situation as a quarterback. So while I also don't really approve of it, I 1000% understand it. And as a parent, I would probably do the same thing. I'm going to admit that flat out. If I knew that my child was walking into an awful situation, I could somehow maneuver a better situation. As a parent, I'm going to probably do that. My daughter has been spoiled with extreme prejudice. And so I will admit that I am not the person who should talk about letting your child figure it out on their own. Sadly, I have not been able to do that myself. So I am not going to excoriate a parent for being super involved in the life of their child.
Well, see, I also come from the world of the world of the NHL, right, where Eric Lindros pulled this nonsense because he refused to play for the Quebec Nordique, and he ended up in Philadelphia. And that big dumb butt of his deserved everything that he got from Scott Stevens every single time. Thank you.
All right. And once again, the views, thoughts, and
are
feelings
mine. Those are mine. Yes, they're not
those
Team
do not
MBS.
reflect
They are
feelings,
mine.
thoughts, or views of Team MBS Media. Usually I have to do this for Rock, but apparently Greg is the one who wants to say things about people. But yeah, I'll be interested. I'll be monitoring, as I always do, to see what other invitations go out and which ones are accepted. And while everyone pays attention to the quarterbacks, I'm very interested in the pass rushing class, the corner class, and the wide receiver class. Who accepts and who's invited and things like that. Somebody invoked the name of Mr. Nick Nash earlier, and I'm hoping that I get to see him in Mobile. Nick Nash is one of those players who's going to make himself, if he gets to Mobile, he's going to make himself some money in Mobile. I don't think enough people know how good Nick Nash is. And while there is a gap between, Tetraroa and McMillan and maybe everyone else in the world, in that next tier, Nick Nash is, in my mind, near the top of that second tier. And, Ricky White seems like another guy who's been in college forever, but that's another guy that some team's going to be thrilled with to give him because, one, he's already a special teams monster. I mean, he's setting records. He's out here setting records. And then once he sees Phil as a wide receiver, he's going to be a wide receiver 3 right out of the box with a chance to become a 2. People have whined a little bit about this class. Oh, it's not as talent heavy as last year's. It's a different kind of talent as last year's. If you're looking for Xavier Worthy, you're going to be disappointed because he's not going to be in this draft class. But if you're looking for Robert Woods or a Robert Woods type, you're going to find him. If you are looking for Victor Cruz, you're going to find him, right? If you really realize that what you could really need, like what your team really needs, is like Amani Toomer. There's a couple of Amani Toomer types. Nick Nash is kind of a supersized Amani Toomer. So if you are looking for particular types of wide receivers, yeah, there's not a Julio Jones in this class, but there's not many Julio Joneses ever. Yeah, so if you're looking for Calvin Johnson or Julio Jones, yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. You'll be disappointed next year and the year after that too. But if you're looking for certain types of receivers, if you're looking for a Brandon Ayuk type, even, yeah, you can find that guy. As we make it to All-Star season, I'll start with you, Greg. If there's an All-Star game that you were able to get to, which one would you choose and why? And then who are some of the players you're hoping you get a chance to see at the All-Star games?
Well, I would probably go to the East-West Shrine game since it's being played in Dallas, home of the Cowboys. That's probably the game that I would end up going to. Of course, the East-West Shrine game just doesn't get the same star status as the Senior Bowl does. And again, the reason why I'd like to go to that game, however, though, is because of the high quality FCS students that go to that game from North Dakota State and South Dakota and all those lovely schools. That's more fun for me than all the big names that go to the Senior Bowl. I'm looking at one position in the NFL which really sucks across the board, and it really is hurting in the college game as well. That's the linebacker position. Because all these teams are using so many nickel defenses and that, there's only 2 linebackers out in the field at most times, and all that other horrible stuff for them as well. Dane Brugler came out with his list the other day here, and he's got Jalen Walker as the 7th best player on his list. And then the next highest rated linebacker that he has is who was that? Jahad Campbell from Alabama. That really just shows you the lack of position depth that we're seeing at linebacker. It's something that needs to get fixed for so many NFL teams these days, but there isn't that much talent out there. There really isn't. And that's a real shocker to me, is the lack of quality linebacker play. And it's all over the league. I mean, it's all over the NFL and the college football game, because again, there's so many opportunities for just 2 linebackers to be on that field at the moment, and it really, really makes even trying to get an evaluation of these guys is very difficult.
I'll ask you the same question, Brock. Who are you excited about seeing? Which All-Star game would you most like to get to? And yeah, if you want to focus on one position group, you can feel free to do that as well.
Yeah, definitely Senior Bowl, and for a lot of the reasons Greg said, I think they do a great job incorporating FCS players, and you really get to see some real gems stand out, especially in all the preparations and stuff before the big game. I think you got players like Ali Marpet, for example, who Myers as well for the Broncos, players, especially the linemen that stand out in those games and the practices leading up to it. So I have to say Senior Bowl, and Jalen Royals, I think, is the player that we already mentioned him, but I gotta mention him again. He is absolutely incredible on the football field. I think that he is probably a wide receiver 2, but I think he's probably a wide receiver 3 in most NFL offenses. But this guy has starter and playmaker written all over him. I think he fits into a variety of NFL offenses. And then when you look at what the modern NFL requires of a wide receiver, he can basically pull off most, if not all of it, with relative ease. This guy is probably going to be a 2-time all first team Mountain West selection. He's a player that stayed at Utah State despite them losing their head coach like a couple weeks before the season. This is a player that has had multiple opportunities to go off somewhere else, and he hasn't, and it's just a testament to him. I never blame a player for transferring, but I always want to show respect and show admiration for players that do stay, and he's one of those. And yeah, I think he represents the best of what college football has to offer. I think that he's going to be a player that you're going to see make a lot of plays on Sundays. So that kind of wraps up my player and my game I'd like to go see.
Okay, great. And I'll say one other thing about the Shrine game, Greg. They usually have 1 or 2 Canadian college players they usually throw into the mix most years at the Shrine game.
Yeah, usually I haven't heard of any invites as of yet.
No,
the Vanier Bowl isn't finished.
Right. No, you're right. This year, as of yet, I've not heard any mention, but usually 1 or 2 get tapped. So, as I briefly alluded to, draft season is upon us for some. if you're in Jacksonville, if you're in
New Jersey Giants,
right, the New Jersey,
New Jersey Jets.
right.
I don't know. Those teams don't play in their city that they call home, so they're in New Jersey.
They do.
That's what they are. And until the Jets actually get away from having to deal with the Giants at the same stadium and build their own stadium, that team will continue to suck.
Yes. Well, you're not incorrect. But for some of these teams, I'm going to throw out some players or some names of things I think might help. And the Patriots are not one player or two or three players away. They are two handfuls of players away. There's almost not a position you couldn't mention that they could use. They have one really solid young corner in Christian Rodriguez. Ramondre is a guy who, under normal circumstances, would probably be part of a running back committee, but they don't really have another running back who's very good. So he gets the lion's share of the work. They have a lot of wide receiver threes and maybe some twos. They don't really have a wide receiver one in New England. I think Boutte is beginning to develop, but I don't think he'll ever become a wide receiver one. Demario Douglas would be a great wide receiver two. If they had a wide receiver one, then he could become your that dynamic slot like you sort of have out in Seattle, where you've got your human Batman suit X, and then you've got that quick little slot guy, who's got a two-way go. But Demario Douglas is having to do all the heavy lifting as a pass receiver, and he's doing what he can, but he would be. I mean, they could use everything. They could use offensive line. They could use defensive line. Their pass rush, which, I mean, they want to build around their pass rush, but right now their pass rush is not there, to the point where it takes the load off the rest of the defense. It does not yet. So when I think about teams like the Patriots, I mean, and most I just mentioned RC Next Gordon a second ago, but the Patriots also would love to have a guy like that. They really could use him. Really, really, really could use him. If they go smaller with their pass rusher, Abdul Carter, if they want more of like a stand-up guy as opposed to a hand-in-the-dirt guy. If they decided to look at receiver, there's a lot of receivers that, I mean, like I said, people sort of complain about the receiver class a little bit. I don't quite get that. Like, this is a good receiver class. What? Maybe it's not last year's class, but it's really a good class. And I think that there's a good number of players that would bolster them. And we've mentioned some of them already, right? We've talked about some of them. I'll hit on a couple of others that I think could at least possibly create some opportunities for the Patriots to get some plays down the field. One of the things they like about Drake May is, once again, he's got a big arm. He's a guy that can extend plays. He can move around. And, I mean, he's got a lot of the qualities you look for in a modern NFL quarterback, in that he's able to create, outside the structure of the called play. He's able to, also operate the play as called as well. But I think he has a chance to be a real star. And like I said, what would help him is they have more talent. Now, a player who's not going to go super early, in fact, he might not even be drafted, but I think he has a chance to be really, 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 really good if he goes to the right situation. For those who like to watch a lot of UNC Pembroke football, watch out for Josiah Hayes. Now, that's a guy who might well be at the Shrine game. And Josiah Hayes is just the kind of receiver that somebody's going to later say, where did this guy come from? Or why wasn't he at UNC Pembroke? But he truly has track speed. He's maybe not world class, but I mean fast. He's a fast guy, and he has enough.
We could do a quick roundup here because team number 1 right now is Jacksonville,
Oh yeah. Yep.
right? So
Yep.
who does Jacksonville really need?
Oof. Well,
I have them taking the corner from Michigan, Will Johnson.
They could use a guy like Will Johnson. They also could use an interior defensive player. They've got the pass rushers. I'm not wild about the interior of their defense.
But Malachi Starks there's a guy that plays on the inside, obviously. But who's going to draft a safety at number 1, right?
Well, I'm not about safeties. But a defensive tackle could probably not go that early, but again, they could use defensive tackles. They could use offensive tackles as well. There's a lot they could use. But, and we talked about how I think offensive tackles might get pushed up the board this year.
Because right now at PFN, they have your offensive tackles as Campbell and Banks, who are 12 and 13 overall. Those are your top 2 tackles. So
that's where they are now, right?
That's where they are right now, right? But Will Johnson at corner is their second need on that team is cornerback, and he's the number 2 guy overall right now. So where does he go, right?
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is what area of that field do they want to cover? Because I don't see them taking a DT first overall.
No. I'm agreeing that they would probably trade back in that scenario because, as I mentioned, they are not a player away, nor are they 2 or 3 players away. And the funny thing is that this was a sexy dark horse, like Super Bowl pick by some people, and then they just basically fell apart.
It certainly was never a pick for me, but okay.
No, I never saw what people were seeing when but there were some people who were like, like I said, they're sort of sexy dark horse pick. I thought they might be a wild card team, and of course that's not going to come to pass either. But they are dangerously close to blowing it up and starting over there.
Yeah,
I think they'll go
number 2 is the New York Giants. Geez, I wonder what position the Giants draft.
Yeah, I think we all can agree that that's where, maybe Cam Ward
or Shedeur,
possibly Shedeur. But yeah, I think this is probably where the first quarterback comes off the board. The Daniel Jones experiment has, had some moments that were fun and interesting, but you see enough of him. I've seen enough of him. He probably is a guy that should have gone around later than he did. And he probably should have gone in the middle of the second or something like that. He's a developmental player. And once he sort of is relegated to a different kind of role, I think he'll thrive, as a guy who comes in, when your starter goes down with injury and things like that, because he has enough that he can, create. He does have physical ability, and he's a guy with fairly physically tough and mentally tough because, he's been bad. If you're a bad quarterback in New York, you'll find out if you're mentally tough pretty quickly.
And I think the Giants would go to Cam Ward before they take Shedeur.
I'm also feeling that. And obviously, we'll see if Shedeur even declares. With the current state of NIL, not every player is going to declare that we think is going to declare because
exactly
some of these guys can probably make the same amount and a few rare cases, maybe even more.
Exactly. So now number 3 is the Tennessee Titans, and here's the question: is it Travis Hunter or is it Tetairoa McMillan who goes to the Titans?
Well, this comes down to: do you want someone who is the absolute best at one thing, or someone who is
capable of 2 positions?
Right, in the top maybe 10 to 12 at one thing, and like top 2 or 3 at the other.
I think Tennessee trades back in the scenario, honestly.
Right.
But of course, we're not going to do any trades tonight. We're just going to we're just going to go down the list and just stay where everybody's staying. So right now, I've got Will Johnson and Cam Ward as our first 2 picks.
Right.
If it's Tennessee, I'm taking McMillan over Hunter. I'm sorry. I think they really need that wide receiver, and McMillan is the best overall wide receiver in this class.
He is the best overall receiver in this class, and despite what people say about this class not being so as last year's class, he would be in the top 2 or 3 last year as well. He is
easily.
Yeah, he's an absolutely terrific prospect. If the ball is even remotely close to him, he almost always comes up with him, and he can do a little bit after the catch. He's not a catch the ball, fall down guy.
No.
So, while he might not be the most beautifully, explosive player in the open field, he can do something with the ball in his hands as well. I agree. I think he probably goes before Hunter unless a team really falls in love with Hunter, not just because of the versatility, because they realize even if they just have him do one thing, he'll be elite at it.
Well, our number 4 team is the Cleveland Browns. Now is this a place where Shedeur Sanders gets drafted, or?
That's a great question, because the Browns may have found their quarterback of the future. It might be sort of a reverse Baker Mayfield situation, right? Where you sort of discover, he was right there in front of us all along. Yeah. If Jameis continues his playing like he has, 2-3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, week in and week out, and looks like he's looked, I could see them.
Here's a team that has to do exactly what Denver did with Russell Wilson and eat the cash. They have to eat this cash.
Yeah, on Deshaun. Yeah,
Deshaun Watson is just destroyed that. And the Haslams deserve all this punishment. Why you ever guaranteed anybody a contract like that is beyond me. To the full amount that they did, they deserve every bit of punishment that they're going to get from this. And I think Shedeur more than likely gets drafted by the Browns.
Right, which doesn't mean that he'll start. I still think this is Jameis's job for at least the immediate future, if he continues to play like he's been playing. That is the one caveat. I could see Sanders landing there.
And then we have the Las Vegas Raiders. What quarterback does that team need? Because they need one.
They do. And
so does it become Milroe or Ewers or
Dart or
Dart?
I mean, Dart's not going in the first round. There's no reason for him to even be considered.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Would you like to hear a list of quarterbacks that went in the first round that had no business going in the first round?
Oh, we'll be here all day.
I'm just saying. I mean, Kenny Pickett went in the first round. So did Christian Ponder, and we just talked about Daniel Jones not 5 minutes ago. You'll never go broke betting the over on quarterbacks going in the first round. You might lose occasionally, but you won't go broke. You'll win more often than you lose. People push quarterbacks up the board. Now, I hope this year is not one of those years, but still people panic. But yeah, I could see. I mean, I don't think Dylan Gabriel is. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't seem to fit what they like in quarterbacks. At least what they've liked in the past in quarterbacks.
Well, they did have a left-handed quarterback for the Raiders many years ago named the Snake Stabler, and who knows? Maybe they do go lefty again. But again, would you take Dylan Gabriel at the 5th overall pick? Not likely.
I would not. I wouldn't take any quarterback in the first 20 picks. But that's I'm different from NFL.
we're in total agreement with this. But again, we know what the NFL does and the ESPN hype machine does. This quarterback has to play here and because it's the 5th year is such an important thing. Okay, yeah, right. You don't have an offensive line that protects your quarterback. And that's why I think that's where the Raiders do take either a Will Campbell or a Kelvin Banks Jr.
Huh. I don't dislike that, actually. Okay. I could see that. Yep.
And out of the two, I mean, we still don't know what Will Campbell's measurements are going to be, and apparently his arms are going to be too short to be a tackle in the NFL. So I'll say Kelvin Banks Jr. And then you do have the Patriots picking 6, and that's where I have Travis Hunter going.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, there you go. What do the Patriots love? They love Swiss Army knives. They love, a reverse Troy Brown. Yeah, I could see him going there. And now you have turned at least one position of your team into an actual strength. You've got Christian Gonzalez and you've got Travis Hunter. I think they see him as a corner where he'll occasionally get in certain packages or certain situations to play some offense, but I think they're going to see him as a corner.
And then we have the Saints picking at 7, and this is the first time that the edge guys come into play, in my opinion.
All right.
They need edge and offensive tackles, and I think with these edge players that are available, you got Mikael Williams, you got Abdul Carter, you got Nick Scourton, and those are your top three edge players.
Right. Think about that.
I mean, James Pierce Jr. is up there as well.
Yep. He has a shot. And, of course, physical testing will help sort some of this out.
Yep. But I think this is where Abdul Carter would go.
Yeah, no, I could see. Especially if he tests like I think he's going to test. Abdul Carter is one of those guys that the combine is designed for guys like Abdul Carter.
Yep. So then the New York Jets are our next team up. I wonder if they might need. Oh, well, they've got Jordan Travis and they've got Tyrod Taylor and some old fart. Some guy that went to Cal years and years ago.
But none of the things you named would necessarily prevent them from drafting a quarterback.
Exactly. And of course, they also need a tight end very badly with the New York Jets as well. So, I mean, does Colston Loveland go this early? I don't think so.
No, not this early.
Who would go at quarterback to the New York Jets? Brock? Who do you think?
You would be
Milroe?
You would have drafted a quarterback. There's no reason as the Jets to draft a quarterback in that scenario. So I think they go position group. I think Loveland is a guy that could go out and get perhaps offensive lineman maybe because Tyron Smith is at the age that he's at. So if either Campbell or Banks falls, potentially another tackle could go because there could be a run on tackles like how they were last year. Wyatt Millam from West Virginia, I think, is a guy that could possibly end up with the Jets. I think that's the route they go, unless for some odd reason they decide to go wide receiver. I'm not saying that they won't. I'm just saying that I think it would be pretty outlandish for them to do so. But I mean, it's the Jets; they're trying to load up on weapons, right? So who knows? They might go wide receiver as well. I know there's some real good candidates still on the board, so maybe they might go with a playmaker, maybe a Kyron Lacy. They might extend just to kind of get that kind of different dynamic in there. I think this is a pick with what you could see a player and what you didn't have a high grade on or as high get selected because they more just want the certain skills of that player compared to what that value is on the chart.
You think Isaiah Bond could go there?
Isaiah Bond is another top target. I think that someone that can stretch the field is definitely a priority for them. So someone with speed, someone that has a low center of gravity, and someone who can make plays with the ball in their hands, I think is the kind of player that they might be looking for in that position. I think Loveland is not that ridiculous of a thought to go that high either, considering he fits exactly what they're trying to do even though I think they might wait
Yep.
and try to get a more polished blocker. Now, maybe a Luke Lachey or something like that down the line. But I think that, when you look at Loveland's catching prowess, it lines up with exactly what Rodgers needs. So I think they go offense and they go offensive skill player, more specifically, but not quarterback.
So do you see them taking the wide receiver or the tight end?
I think they go wide receiver. Honestly, I think that when you look at what they got right now for wide receiver 3, it's Allen Lazard. I think they want to use Allen Lazard for certain situations, but they want another guy that can stretch the field. I think that's what they're hoping with Malachi Corley when they drafted him in the 3rd, but I don't think they're exactly happy with him right now. So that's why I think that they're probably going to wide receiver.
This was a pick that we all discussed. This is a pick that we discussed last year when the Jets did take Malachi Corley. He's a one-trick pony. He is a one-trick pony. You got to have somebody who's got more capabilities than that. So I'm going to say Isaiah Bond.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think it's pretty solid pick.
The Carolina Panthers.
Well, they're making progress, right? They're not picking at the absolute top of the draft.
Well, they have them listed here with quarterback, edge, cornerback, center, and defensive tackle as their team needs here.
Yep.
But I believe that they go edge.
I would agree.
I would disagree with that too. I think, especially with losing Brad Burns, they'll have to go edge.
Would it go Mikael Williams or Nick Scarton?
Williams. I think that's what they go with.
Yeah.
Williams.
Agreed.
The Miami Dolphins, yet again, an offensive line need. I just wonder. They need guard and tackle.
I think they go defensive tackle, actually.
Hey, here we go. Ding, ding, ding.
Well, they could. This could be the home for Mason Graham.
Yeah, right. I think Graham. I think they might go Grant over Graham, actually.
You thinking Kenneth Grant?
I think they want a guy they can put in the middle and just say go push.
Yeah.
To open up Zealand on the
Grant is 340 pounds, so he's no little fella.
Because whoever they bring in is replacing Christian Wilkins, essentially. Yep. So that's why I think they might go Grant over Graham. Plus, if they are able to bring back Calais, they have that defensive edge pass rusher. I know that's bizarre to say at 39, essentially. But they'll have him, so they just want some guy that eats up double teams and
And then it's the Dallas Cowboys, and we all know who they're taking. It's Ashton Jeanty. It's over. It's done with.
They're not taking Ashton Jeanty, actually.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. I hate to be the one to keep pressing above, but they're not taking Jeanty.
Yes, they are.
Well,
Jones ain't drafted a receiver. Jones ain't drafted a running back that high.
As much as I've enjoyed that scintillating debate, Greg, what I will do is I will give you 30 seconds to make your case for Ashton Jeanty, and then Brock, I'll give you 30 seconds to refute and or rebut regarding the Jeanty argument for Dallas. Greg, you may begin.
The Cowboys will have over $100 million to spend next season. Therefore, it's going to be the running back that they select because they can pick up a wide receiver off the free agency wire to pair up with CeeDee Lamb. And there is no other player that the Cowboys need more than Ashton Jeanty. This kid has been a great receiver out of the backfield, and his running game is the type of running game that the Dallas Cowboys have missed since Ezekiel Elliott's first 3 seasons, and that's it. So, therefore, that's where the Dallas Cowboys draft Ashton Jeanty.
All right.
Yeah.
Now
that's
all
good and makes sense, but you also require the Dallas Cowboys to use a word called logic. And that's not something that's been in Jerry Jones' repertoire as of late. The Cowboys have a variety of needs beyond just Ashton Jeanty. And while Jeanty would be a nice toy for the Cowboys, the true root of the problem falls into their horrific defense, a defense that is in desperate need of another pass rusher. And who does Jerry Jones love to take? Pass rushers out of Texas, especially a guy from Texas A&M, Nick Stroughton, or how he says his last name. And that's going to be the pick, especially because we all know DeMarcus Lawrence is on borrowed time. And so is potentially Michael Parsons.
Oh, would I be a happy man if they got rid of the pass rushing genius that Micah Parsons is, but that's all he's capable of being. Bill, you're muted.
Yes. Well done, well argued, and well stated, gentlemen. Let's keep going.
All right. So after the Cowboys, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is where Malachi Starks goes off the board.
Yes, they lost, for those that hadn't heard, a couple of safeties recently. And it greatly impacted what they could and couldn't do on defense. Lou Anarumo, who loves to do lots of exotic things with his safeties, was hamstrung by the ability, not having that ability because he no longer had Von Bell. And of course, perhaps even more importantly, or equally as importantly, lost Jesse Jesse Bates, who those two together, who could each do each other's jobs as well as do almost anything else you could ever ask a safety to do. So they could, I agree, they could definitely use Malachi Banks.
Yeah, Malachi Starks. The Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, they're going to be out without T. Higgins.
Yeah, well, they already have his essentially brought his replacement in already, and I got a chance to meet and watch that young man. And Andre Iosivas, first of all, he's 6'3" and an eighth, about 204 pounds, and was a guy that set records.
Is just phenomenal, and
he set records, right? He set records for the 600 meters indoors for the Ivy League. He went to Princeton. He also was one of the top-ranked pentathletes in the nation as a track and field athlete. So he's just a great.
This is where I have them taking either the tight end or they go edge.
Mm.
And if they go tight end, I could see them taking Warren from Penn State or Colston Loveland, either one.
Okay. Well, I think both those guys go soon. I think there's still a couple of picks away, but I get what you're saying. Anything to offer on that pick, Brock?
Yeah, I don't think they go in that direction at all. I think they try and reload at wide receiver. I think that's why they go. I don't know which wide receiver. I just think they go with a wide receiver. I think EOC Boss is the replacement for T. Higgins, but they recognize they need a lot more. And they've always cut defensively to add offensively. That's what they do. And I don't think they're going to differentiate from that this year.
Okay.
The next pick, right? So who do you like going to Cincinnati then?
I just a wide receiver. I don't know which one, but I just said wide receiver.
Well, Luther Burden is there. Igbuka, Evan Stewart, Jaden Higgins.
Probably Stewart if I had to make a guess, honestly.
You like Stewart? Yeah.
I think they like Stewart.
Yeah.
I like Stewart too, but just like in certain situations. I'm not that high. But
right, not that high.
Again, it's a league driven by offense now, so I think that's what they're focusing on.
Exactly. Tampa Bay.
Huh. Interesting. They're going to lose. They're going to lose wide receiver. Yeah.
Well, they're gonna be down one of those two wide receivers anyway. But their backups have been playing very well in the absence of Godwin and Mike Evans. I could see I could see them going after a cornerback here though.
Right. True.
And is this going to be the new home for Benjamin Morrison or the inside corner, Siobhan Ravel?
Huh. You think Ravel has a chance to go this high?
I really do.
Okay.
Minus
I don't-
even minus not being able to go to the Senior Bowl and things like that. If you watch that man's film, he is an inside corner in the NFL, and that is something that the Buccaneers desperately need.
I don't dislike that. I have him a little later, but he's one of those guys to me that's right on that end of the first, early second kind of bubble. But he's a good. You're right. He's a good player.
But again, Benjamin Morrison is the shutdown guy.
Right.
We
So-
gotta see how he is though, because we don't know his health.
His hip is fine
How do we know that? How do we honestly know that his hip is fine?
because it's already been reported.
Yeah, I'm wait till
But
the medals
again,
come out.
Yeah, we have to see what the medical shows up at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine and all that fun sort of stuff. But again, what I've heard is Benjamin Morrison will be just fine. So
Okay. Let's keep going. Next pick.
Yeah, well, I was gonna add Tampa Bay picks Abdul Carter in that pick.
Huh. They love to get Abdul Carter if he's still available there. Yeah. Next pick, please.
well, Abdul Carter went to the Saints.
I think the Saints go edge, so that's why I said that.
Yeah. The Seattle Seahawks. Oh, this is going to be the home to Nick Scarton. If anybody's available, it'll be Nick Scarton.
Oh, if he's available. I don't think he would be, but yeah.
The Los Angeles Rams.
Huh. Interesting. Well, first of all, congratulations the Rams on having a first round pick. That's exciting news.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, if they decide
years
to
in a row.
keep him, if they decide to keep this pick, I mean, we don't know.
Right.
This is where I could see them going to like a Harold Perkins Jr.
Or one of the tight ends. That's the one position on offense where they have not gotten consistent productivity in recent memory. No offense to Tyler Higbee or the other guy.
And you know, Harold Fanning Jr. would be a sweet deal for that team. But
Obviously,
again,
probably a couple rounds later, but yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah. Because I mean, everybody's also saying that they need a corner as well.
Yep.
And my corner for them that he's a third round pick at this point.
Right.
That would be
Okay.
Prysock from the University of Washington.
Oh, okay. What say you, Brock?
For the Rams, I think they go interior defensive line. So that's why I think they take Mason Graham in this role.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
They've already got Fisk and well, they could go Mason Graham.
Well, Bobby Brown is leaving. Plus they run a 3-4. Plus you always want good rotation on the inside in case somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
And on the edge, they already have Byron Young and Jared Verse. So that's why I went inside compared to outside.
Yep. What do the Bears do? Oh my Lord! I think they need to go offensive guard. Thanks to the Tevin Jenkins news, he's down yet again. Would that be Rutledge or Booker or Donovan Jackson?
I don't think the Bears actually go to the guard. I think it's Booker if they do go guard, but actually I think the Bears go defense, and I think they go Perkins in this spot.
You think they're going to take the edge?
I think so. To pair somebody to open up Montez, or somebody that Montez can open up.
Well, see, this is the reason why I want to trade Micah Parsons, because he would open up that whole other side for the Bears, and the
You
Bears
gotta stop with this trade, Micah thing. It's not gonna happen. At least not anytime soon.
Oh, but you know, I need more draft picks for the Cowboys.
I mean, I don't care how many Cowboy picks you get for the Cowboys. Like, there's the problem. The Cowboys don't have holes. That's the problem. They have a glaring problem, and that problem is attached to a $200 million freshly signed contract. So I don't care how many draft picks you get. Nothing's changing.
Well, hey, that's, you know, Dak is Dak. Um,
Okay, next.
People are who they are.
Is it James Pierce Jr.
Hmm.
or
I
would
could
it
see
be
that.
or would it be Umi Milan from Ole Miss?
What team is this?
The Bears. Or does JT go from Ohio State?
I don't think they take JT. I think they think he's too much of a wild card for them. I think they want somebody a little bit more.
Yep.
They feel ready. You know what I mean? More consistent.
Okay, next pick.
Okay, so we're gonna go with Pierce there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you take Pierce. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Now here's the San Francisco Niners.
God damn.
They need tackles.
Yeah.
I think they actually go guard in the scenario.
But their tackle play really sucks.
I mean, who would they go get though?
And it could be Emory Jones. It could be or Cam Williams from Texas because they're both right tackles, and the right tackle spot is the spot I'm looking at for the Niners.
That's me. Yeah. Is it possible that one of the tight ends goes there? Do you think that could be a possibility? That one of the tight ends could end up there? Do you think that might be a possibility?
Yeah, I think it's possible, but I just don't know who.
But I don't see them doing that in the first round because they still got George Kittle and.
Right. Okay. Next pick.
They could go corner to replace Trevor Ward.
Well, that's the other position I'm looking at is the corner position, right?
I think they go Benjamin Harrison in that spot, honestly. I think if Harrison goes anywhere, he goes there.
Who's Harrison?
Morrison, I mean.
Oh, okay. Right. But we already took him to Tampa.
Yeah, I do know. It's a fluid situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think if they do go corner, I mean, man, that because this corner the corner position is strong, but it's not first round type strong, right?
Right.
I think that's a pick that's later on. I think they got to take either Emory Jones or Cameron Williams.
Okay. Next pick.
The Denver Broncos.
Oh. Huh.
And this could be the home for Luther Burden.
Yeah, that would give them some explosion in the pass game. He could go to the slot.
Or Igbuka.
Well,
I think this is where JTT goes.
You think?
Yeah. I think Sean Payton believes in himself a bit too much to think that he thinks he can replace Burton level talent in the third. I think it's an ego thing.
Right.
But the other position of need is going to be tackle for them as well because Bowles is going to leave town, right?
Right.
Yeah, I would say tackle would probably be a big priority for them too. I just think I think they don't go wide receiver just because I think Sean Payton believes he can turn everyone to Tre'Quan Smith.
Yeah. So if they go tackle, boy, I don't know. Maybe Ursary from Minnesota.
Possibly.
Or I also like both of the tackles from Oregon.
Right.
Carnley Jr.
Right.
Or Cam Williams.
Right. We could do the Or game for a while. Anything else to add, Brock, before we move to the next one?
Nope.
Okay, next pick.
We have the Houston Texans.
Huh.
I think this is where you see a guard come off, Booker or Rutledge. I think that they're done with the Kenyon Green experience.
I think but they really need. They also need a defensive tackle in a big way. And Deonte Walker or Tyleik Williams are both sitting there. And you know that the head coach is a defensive coach.
True.
Okay.
So which one of those two do you prefer, Williams or Walker?
Walker for me.
Yeah,
Walker.
I have to go Walker.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Next pick. Yep.
The Falcons are 21st.
They could use a corner. They could use. I mean, they plug Bates in there, but at some point they're going to need a safety. Probably not this year, but soon.
I could also see them taking Jalen Walker from their home state.
True, if he's still available. I could see them addressing either of their lines, both offense and defense. But I think probably they prioritize defense over offense in terms of line play based on what I've seen, which I can understand because, they're pretty good most of the time on offense, but their defense has certainly at times let them down.
Yeah. So who do you like them taking there? The edge?
That's the way I would lean, yes.
What about you, Brock?
I'll have to lean the same way.
Okay, so Jalen Walker?
Yes, that's our consensus, yeah.
Okay, so now it's the Arizona Cardinals, who a lot of people have selecting a defensive tackle. And I think they could go to Derek Harmon from Oregon.
Right.
What do you think, Brock?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much in agreement with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
The Washington Commanders, who really sucked last night. Boy, did that annoy me that they didn't beat those. Okay, I won't get too upset about this.
Yeah, well, I can get it. That's a tough situation when there's so many good players and you somehow find a player that's not the right one when there's, a player who would have been good after and before you.
I could see them taking. I could see them taking Luther Burden here.
Interesting.
That would be a heck of a pairing with McLaurin.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Anything else to add, Brock?
Nope.
Okay, next pick.
Brock's Chargers.
Usually smoky because, here's what I like about the Chargers situation. They're, I won't say a year ahead of schedule, but they're a little bit ahead of schedule. They do have playmakers, at least one on both sides of the ball at all three levels. Depth has been an issue for them in the past. And while their offensive line play has improved, it's not a dominant offensive line. But Brock, tell me, what do you see when you look at the Chargers, and what holes would you like to address?
I think there's a variety of ways you can go on this one, but I think tight end is probably the position they address, and I think they go Luke Lachey out of Iowa. That might be a little higher value than most people place him. I think they want a tight end that they know has hands, but also emphasizes blocking, and that's why they go with that pick.
You don't think your former coach of that school up north doesn't take Colston Loveland?
Harbaugh skipped out a bunch of Michigan guys in this draft, so I think if he really wanted his guys, he would have selected them. But I think it's like a Taylor Mays, Pete Carroll kind of situation. Whereas, yeah, I was happy with you in college, but this is the NFL, and different things. We need different things at this level.
But Lachey really turns into like a round 3 type of a guy for me.
I think that this is a guy that I think is going to test insane. I think that's why his numbers are going to pop up.
Yeah, I mean he could pop up, but again, do they go tight end at the 24th position?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't even think they care about quote unquote value pick. I think they just want to slip their guys. You know what I mean?
The Green Bay Packers.
Once again, you're picking players that don't could see the field. Huh.
I think this is going to be this could be a position of either the DT or the cornerback would be the two positions that I would look at them. Is this where Siobhan Revell goes?
I will respond, as I said, yeah. Yep.
Who do you think they go with, Brock?
Yeah, I think Revell is a solid pick for this position.
The team that never moves and always drafts very, very well, the Ravens. And this to me is either a guard or a linebacker. Who do you guys think?
Bill?
Mr. Bill?
Yes.
You all right?
Yes, the Ravens. Do they go guard or linebacker?
Or offense or perhaps even wide receiver. Bateman has sort of roused himself a little bit, and they do have a number 1 in Zay, but there's a bit of drop off from Zay to Bateman, and then a enormous drop off from Bateman to Saul X. So that's a possibility.
But they picked up a wide receiver.
I still
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I get that. I still don't think that would stop them. I think Johnson is a good close to the, middle of the field and even into the sort of flat area kind of guy, and he's quick and he can, sometimes make someone miss or break a tackle. But I think that they still would like to have. Once again, I'm not saying Julio Jones. I mean, that may be available. I think they still want that sort of classic X who's 6'1" to 6'4", 215 to 225 pounds, who can run, big, powerful guy who can move. I think that's who they're still holding out hope for.
Because, I mean, the wide receivers that are left here are Buka, Chris Brazel II, Jaden Higgins, Oronde Gadsden II. Now, there's a guy who could go later on in this draft to Baltimore. I really think that they really have to get the guard or the linebacker.
I agree that would be wise. I don't know if those have happened here. What say you, Brock?
Because Booker is available, Donovan Jackson, Tate Rutledge.
I think for his versatility, I think they take Jackson.
Donovan Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Bill, it's your team. It's your team. The Steelers.
Right. Well, two things. I'm under the assumption that we will not be bringing back Najee. So that and Warren can probably hold the fort for a while, but I don't think he's a long-term answer at running back. It is possible the second running back comes off the board here, and it's possible that running back could end up in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's proven they'll take running backs in the first round because that's where Najee went. So I think that is a possibility. I could see us still adding to the secondary, but I don't know if the second safety is good enough to go here. Nickel is a possibility if there's one that's good enough. And then obviously, we all talked about the linebacker situation. If there's a linebacker you have a first round grade on, you better take him now. He will not be around later, and there apparently is not another running back to that level of credit or that level of just development and ability.
So out of the running backs, then there's the pair of running backs from Ohio State. There's Omarion Hampton from North Carolina and Nick Singleton from Penn State.
Right.
And Judkins is the only one who I have rated as a possible first rounder.
Right. Well, yeah, for me, the thing that I think is still the hardest to find, and Cameron Hayward has been amazing, but he can't play forever. I like Keanu Benton, but Keanu Benton will need, his, if he sort of becomes Cam Hayward, then he needs his Keanu Benton, So
Yep.
I think I mentioned running backs, and it's possible. I still think they want that powerful, disruptive, consistently destructive interior defense player. So go ahead.
I was just going to say then, for the DTs, you have Sanders from South Carolina, Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, Corleone from Cincinnati, and then there's Mr. Nolan from Ole Miss.
Okay, Nolan would be in consideration. They love that kind of player.
Exactly.
But
again,
you're right.
He's more of a top 100 player, but the Steelers do tend to go to their own board, right?
A bit too much sometimes, yes. Correct.
Yeah. So let's give him Nolan.
I don't dislike this. Yep.
All right. So the Vikings.
That's another possible landing spot for the second running back off the board. They also could use pass rush, but everyone can. They could use. They have really poor offensive line depth. They could use interior and exterior offensive line players, prospects, and I mean, there may or may not be.
You think Will Campbell would be a good would be a good pick for him?
If he makes it there, yes. I everything I'm hearing says he's gone, 12 picks before now, or maybe more. But yeah, that's everything I'm hearing. It puts him sort of towards the middle of the action so far.
All right, now we have Howie Roseman and the Eagles. Is that where Harold Perkins Jr. ends up?
I was thinking about him, and I was thinking also about
or do they go to the edge, and this is where JTT goes?
I think JTT, especially if he can sort of prove he could, he can be versatile.
He has to prove himself at the Senior Bowl, doesn't he?
Right. People want to see if he's a guy who can line up, at the 5, 4-eye, the 3, nose shape. Like, can he prove that he can play 4 or 5 just at a high level? If so, he may go even before this, but he certainly wouldn't make it past this point. Yeah. We're in agreement.
The Buffalo Bills.
Well, their secondary, though they've held up reasonably well, but had lacked some depth this year.
Yeah, and that would be Denzel Burke or Takario Davis.
True.
And out of those two, I actually think the Bills would prefer Davis, don't you?
Oh, yes.
The Detroit Lions.
Oh boy. So in the old days, this team would have been mentioned an hour ago. Things are changing.
Yeah. And here I've got them either going to a DT or an edge.
Yep. So I could see them going to the board and seeing which of their highest rated DTs, first rated edge players, is still available. I'm trying to think of some of those people towards the top of that second tier on offense. Yes, there's. Let me think. There's one in there.
Because really, the offensive line is set till 2027 there, contractually. And they even have my big Canadian as their swing player. So I think it's either the DT or the edge that they go to.
Well, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of different ways you can go when you get to the point in the draft.
Yep.
And some teams won't have any more first round grades left. So what's the difference to some extent if you take a player here or 4 or 5 picks later? But yeah, I'm in agreement. I think they do want to address that impact position with a player that makes impact, a player that flies around all over the field, hitting.
And I'm gonna mention him. He's a big boy out of Arkansas, Landon Jackson.
Oh yeah.
Would he not be a nice fit on the other side of Hutchinson?
Well, I mean, I don't pretend to know what enemy does do, but first, take the time that you need. But here's the main thing I would say: if you have some teams like to turn a strength into a stronger strength, like they don't mind sort of stacking at certain positions, and then of course you can't predict when or if someone might get hurt. I know I keep saying this, but this is where you could see potentially the second tight end or the second running back off the board as well.
Yeah, I still like them going either the edge or the DT.
Oh, right. No, I still think that's likely. I'm sort of like, if that doesn't happen, watch out for.
And is it going to be Tyleik Williams, the DT? Or
I think it could be, or yeah.
Or like I said, a Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. Because at this point, I mean, you're drafting second round players anyway, right?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, yeah, I would probably say Carter in the scenario we presented.
Okay. And then, of course, it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Brock?
Geez, I wonder what position they might go.
Yeah, I think running back. If there's a good one available, I think they could go with running back. I think they could be looking for Travis Kelce's not just a replacement, but maybe just someone that can replicate not a portion of his production, maybe take the load off of him to perhaps get a couple more years out of him and keep him healthier. Kind of bench him to the playoffs kind of player pick, I think there's a variety of ways they could go with this one.
Yeah.
But I think that the players that they actually go with, I'm gonna throw one out there that I think is gonna make a lot of people just look at me kind of odd, but hear me out. Omarion Hampton.
Well, I got them either taking Hampton or Travion Henderson because Henderson pro blocking is just so superb.
Yeah, I think Henderson, like right there, I think either or. I think they pick, or they could go Ollie Gordon if they want to take a gamble for some random reason. No matter what. I mean, they could go so many guys, but I think they go running back, honestly. Either running back or really good tight end if there's one still left on the board.
Well, Colston Loveland is there. Tyler Warren is there. Harold Fanning Jr. is there. But I think they're happy with Gray and the other kid that are there behind Kelce right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Between, they also have, like Jared Wiley, a great deal. So yes, they.
And even Hendershot is there.
Yeah, they have a lot of talented tight ends already. I think this is a defense pick. I think they're going to pick someone on the other side of the ball. I could see a rotational pass rusher. I could see, or possibly a summary, someone who gets their hands on the other team's, ball and brings their possessions to an end.
Well, what about Emmett Worry from South Carolina, the safety?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, probably the truth that the issue's still being explored as of now. We're not ready to move forward or some of those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we've already done the first round. There you have it, kids.
Yes.
As
Yes.
of today, as of right now, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, so far, yes,
subject to
1 to
change.
1. Subject
of
to
course,
change.
yes, it does. It does change because of the medical conditions that come out and all that fun sort of stuff as well.
Yeah,
And
what,
again,
everyone.
we don't know how many of these guys actually decide to go to the NFL right now. We just don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, probably a fairly low number because it's hard to get there. But yes, I'll start with you, Brock. Would you like to tell the viewing audience what you're up to? What can they expect from you? And if you are planning to go to some All-Star games, have you applied for credentials?
Nothing yet for All-Star games. It's a little bit out of my reach at the moment with some of my other work. So the other work I'm doing right now is I'm covering the Los Angeles Rams, Rams Wire. I'm covering the Indiana Hoosiers with a good friend Donovan Jackson. Jesus, Donovan James. See, I got people's names mixed up now. My good friend Donovan James at Indiana Hoosiers State of Mind. I'm here at Team MBS Media on assignment tomorrow. UNLV football. So expect some content coming out from that. And yeah, it's kind of what I've been up to, and what I'll continue to be doing until the end of the season.
There we go. Beautiful. The same question for you, Greg Rector. What are you up to? Where can people find and follow your work?
Well, you can follow me on X still at Greg Cowboys. You can follow me on the new one, Blue Sky. There's Greg Cowboys at Blue Sky Social. You can also see me on The Last Word with Jeff Barnes tomorrow night. Brock will not be joining us because he will be at the UNLV game. But
hey, if you guys are looking for somebody, I'll be available.
Well, there you are. We just might have to have you come on. We don't know.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll still be covering the draft and all that good sort of stuff here for Team MBS Media, and away we go.
Away we go, indeed.
I did watch the next set of the Cobra Kai series that came out today. So I'm gonna have to rewatch again because this series has just gotten a little wild. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
That's not
all right then. Well, gentlemen, first of all, it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure. And I am working on getting us a guest for next week. I have I was working on one for this week, and then some of them will roll over into next week. But hopefully we'll bring back someone who is very connected to a team that has recently won a big game and may, in fact, make a run at the Party of 12, who is very strongly part of putting that team together. We're working on bringing that person on.
You're going to get Marcus Freeman. Oh my God! What a big score that will be.
We'll see. But yes, some of you may already know who I'm working on, but it's someone very, very connected to a very, very successful program that has a legitimate chance to be one of the 12 teams in the playoffs. For everyone who has ever watched, subscribed, shared, and enjoyed the work that we do, I thank you so much. It is a privilege, a joy, and a pleasure to do this for you. And we are going to keep doing it. Why? Because it's what we do. So we will see all of you again in, you know what? Let's just call it a week, right? Let's do that. Let's call it a week, everybody. Once again, take very good care, and we are OUT out.